Welcome back to the Bible Stories series. In the previous episode, we saw Jerusalem reduced to ruins and Jeremiah sitting there weeping. But actually, before the city was destroyed, a group of social elites had already been captured and taken to the enemy nation of Babylon. Today's protagonist, Ezekiel, is one of them. The time is 593 BC. The location is by a canal called the Kebar River in the Babylonian Empire. It is filled with Jewish refugees. Ezekiel is 30 years old this year. This is a sad age for him because he comes from a priestly family, and according to regulations, 30 is exactly the age he should officially take up his post in the Temple of Jerusalem and engage in priestly duties. But now, he is 800 kilometers away from home, the temple is about to be destroyed, and he has become part of the unemployed population. Every day, he can only sit by the river, staring blankly at the muddy water, his life completely bleak. He thought this was how his life would be forever. But he never imagined that right in this dirtiest, most despairing refugee camp, he was about to see the most incredible vision in the entire Bible. On this day, the sky suddenly opened up. A fierce wind blew, and a cloud full of flashing fire came sweeping in from the north. What did Ezekiel see? Honestly, his description is so complex that it makes one wonder if he had taken psychedelics. Even modern people think it looks exactly like alien technology. He saw 4 bizarre living creatures, each with 4 faces: human, lion, ox, eagle, and 4 wings. Beside them were 4 massive wheels. These were not ordinary wheels, they were intersecting wheels, sparkling like topaz, completely covered with eyes all around, and able to move in any direction without turning. Above the heads of these creatures was a crystal-like vault, and above the vault was a sapphire throne. Seated on the throne was a figure like that of a man, completely surrounded by fire and a rainbow. Terrified, Ezekiel fell face down on the ground. He finally understood, this was not a spaceship, this was God's mobile throne. This dropped a massive bombshell on all the refugees. God was not trapped in the Temple of Jerusalem. He is mobile, and he actually left the Holy Land to personally come find them in this unclean, foreign land. After seeing the vision, God gave Ezekiel a mission, to warn his stubborn compatriots. But God said, they will not listen to you. Therefore, Ezekiel was forced to adopt an extreme method, performance art. God even temporarily made him mute, allowing him only to act, not speak. Let's look at some of the crazy things he did. Miniature model war: he took a clay brick, drew the city of Jerusalem on it, and then built miniature siege ramps and placed miniature battering rams around it, playing siege games like a child every day to foretell the impending siege of Jerusalem. Lying on his side for 390 days, God told him to lie on his left side for 390 days to bear the sin of Israel, and then to lie on his right side for 40 days to bear the sin of Judah. For over a year, he lay on the street like a paralyzed patient. Baking bread with dung, to pre-enact the famine during the siege, he could only eat a pitifully small ration of food, and he had to use human excrement as fuel to bake his bread. Later God made a concession and allowed him to use cow dung. Everyone around him thought he was crazy. But this was exactly God's purpose. When words have failed, only the most absurd and disgusting images can stimulate numb human hearts. In the middle section of the entire book, Ezekiel was taken back to Jerusalem in a vision. He saw a heinous scene. Inside God's temple, the walls were covered with crawling things and detestable animals, the elders were worshipping idols in the dark, women were weeping for the foreign deity Tammuz, some even stood at the entrance of the temple with their backs to the altar, bowing to the sun in the east. The temple had become a massive idol exhibition hall. God was like a husband openly cuckolded by his wife, who even brought her lovers home to mess around. Consequently, the most tragic scene occurred. Ezekiel saw that the chariot of glory he had seen by the river started up. The glory of God rose from the most holy place, moved to the threshold, then moved to the east gate, and finally left the city completely, stopping on the Mount of Olives to the east. God moved out. He completely abandoned the city he had once loved so deeply. This foreshadowed that Jerusalem's final protective shield had disappeared, and destruction was imminent. In 586 BC, bad news arrived, Jerusalem had fallen, and the temple was destroyed. Ezekiel's muteness was also lifted. The refugees were completely in despair. They said, "Our bones are dried up and our hope is gone, we are cut off." They felt they were no different from dead people. Just then, God brought Ezekiel to a valley. It wasn't a meadow, but a place covered with white, dead human bones, and they were extremely dry, indicating they had been dead for a long time. God asked a strange question, "Son of man, can these bones live?" Ezekiel didn't dare answer casually, "Sovereign Lord, you alone know." God said, "Prophesy to these bones." The subsequent scene is simply the progenitor of Hollywood zombie movies. As Ezekiel spoke, there was a rattling sound in the valley, and the bones came together, bone to bone. Then, tendons and flesh appeared on them, and skin covered them. But they were still motionless corpses. It wasn't until Ezekiel called for breath, the Holy Spirit, to enter them that these corpses instantly stood up, becoming a vast army. This vision told this group of despairing refugees, even if you are as dead as dry bones, God still has the power to bring the nation back to life. Why did Israel fall? The root cause wasn't that Babylon was too strong, but that their hearts were too hard. Their hearts were like stone, unable to take in God's words. If they were simply brought back to their country, they would repeat their mistakes. Therefore, Ezekiel announced God's plan for a spiritual surgical operation. This is also the core ideology of the New Testament. God said, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you, I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh." This is an astonishing promise. God is not just going to change the external environment, He is going to directly give people a heart transplant. He will put His own Spirit, the Holy Spirit, inside people, causing them to generate a desire to obey God from within. This is no longer relying on the constraint of external laws, but the renewal of inner life. At the end of the book, Ezekiel saw another magnificent vision. In that post-war ruined world, God showed him the blueprint of a brand new, perfect temple. This temple was unbelievably large, and there was even a river of life flowing out from it, healing the water of the Dead Sea, with trees of life growing on both banks. This image also later appears in the description of heaven in the book of Revelation. This book ends with its final sentence, which is the name of this new city, called Jehovah Shammah. The meaning of this name is very simple, yet incredibly profound: the Lord is there. The story begins with God leaving Jerusalem and ends with God living there forever. This tells us, no matter how great a failure we experience in life, how far away we are exiled, or even if we feel as desperate as dry bones, as long as God is present, that is heaven, and that is the beginning of revival.